Good morning, I'm harleysch from the LaRouche Organization with your daily video update for November 21st, 2024. Well, it's absolutely clear that the war hawks are willing to put your life and the life of your family in danger. And for what reason? To protect their collapsing world order. And as you'll see in the course of the discussion today, there's growing opposition, including in the United States, but especially internationally. And we have an opportunity now to clean out the nest of treasonous figures of the global oligarchy who have hijacked the government, not just of the United States, but of all the European countries as well. The populations are unhappy. We've seen incumbents get voted out everywhere. So the question is, can we take the power of their implanted networks inside the governments so that we can ensure that the governments will represent the actual interests and the will of the people? Now, in the last 2 days, we've seen the dangerous stupidity of the Western leaders, the transatlantic leaders. On November 19th, Ukraine fired attack missiles into the Bryansk region of Russia, after having been given permission to do so by Biden just a day or two before. And the U.S. is still not admitting that that's the policy, at least not publicly. And then on November 20th, yesterday, British Storm Shadow missiles were launched again by Ukraine, but as in the case of the ATACMS, they can only be targeted and fully operational under the direction of Western technical crews, which means NATO forces are directing these long-range missiles to hit sites deep inside Russia. Now, the Biden administration is showing not only no recognition of the danger, but an intent to use these attacks as a way to keep the war going, to ramp it up. This is their view of how you Trump-proof the situation. They're afraid that if Trump has his way, he'll end these wars. And so they're trying to essentially make these wars permanent so that there's nothing Trump can do to stop it. Now, Zelensky, of course, said that this is going to continue and they want all restrictions lifted so they can hit Russian military everywhere they are. Now, look, Zelensky's not an official of the U.S. government. He's not even the president of Ukraine anymore because his term expired and he canceled elections. So he's showing the same kind of unconstitutional war hawk commitment as the Biden administration, which is doing this without the consent of Congress. An act of war by a U.S. government requires an act of Congress. There's no attempt to do that. And so we can see the lies about defending democracy in their actual policy. Now, the Blinken crowd is going to continue with this and in fact, do more damage. Yesterday, the Biden administration lifted the prohibition against the use of anti-personnel landmines. Now, while this is going on, the G20 was meeting in Brazil and essentially kicked in the teeth the leading transatlantic governments who complained about their treatment. The US, Germany, and France protested against the official communique because they said it was not sufficiently anti-Russian. Well, Bloomberg Press, in its report on the conference, had this to say: "This shows, quote, that the West is no longer running the show," unquote. That's good, because the West is committed to maintaining an imperial neo-colonial order, which includes turning against the populations of the Western countries because they cannot cover the debt from the looting alone of the Global South, especially since the Global South is now standing up and saying no more. Well, that, I think in the election in the United States, we saw a similar response from the American people. No more tax dollars going to these wars. No more austerity. No more lies about inflation. Now it's necessary for the administration to move in and carry that out, and it's going to require a total mobilization by the population to back this fight against the old order. Essentially, the old order takes the attitude, if we can't run it, we'll unleash chaos. It's sort of like the après nous le déluge, the Louis XIV, after us come the floods. Now, on the Trump cabinet fight, I have to be completely honest with you. It's a mix. You have a bunch of war hawks headed by Marco Rubio who are being put in there, especially those who are tied to the Zionist organizations and committed to the war in Southwest Asia, which includes targeting Iran. Now, why is this happening? We'll see. Trump says he wants to end all the wars. Well, let's see if he'll do it. But let's make sure that he knows that that's what the population wants. On the positive side, in the last couple of days, 2 Republican senators came out very clearly saying that we have to stop this provocation with Biden targeting the missiles into Russia. Senator Hawley and Senator Rand Paul both came out and said this is a direction toward World War III. Very interesting, Michael Flynn, General Michael Flynn, the former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, who blew the whistle on the CIA for its support and training and arming of al-Qaeda and ISIS in Syria. Flynn came out and called on the invoking of the 25th Amendment, saying that Biden is not capable of running the country and should be removed. Now, he also said, don't assume that Putin is bluffing about the possibility of the escalation to nuclear war to stop the targeting of Russia. Now, what's important about this is the 25th Amendment would remove Biden and put Harris in charge. Is that a solution? No, but it's a disruption. And this drive toward war must be disrupted as we meantime marshal the forces to clean out the nests in the permanent bureaucracy inside the government agencies, especially in state, defense, and intelligence. The whole neocon warhawk network has to be exposed and stripped of any power. And this is going to require continued fight from Trump, but also mobilization of the U.S. population in support of that. Now, one of the ways to do that is to go back to the strategy devised by Lyndon LaRouche, which includes an international strategy that is working together. LaRouche's original 4 powers agreement was the US, Russia, India, and China. Before the BRICS, that's what he was talking about. Those 4 countries are powerful enough to defeat the forces of international finance like BlackRock, JP Morgan Chase, and the London banks. But also, there are measures that can be taken to weaken those banks, namely re-regulation. Reverse the repeal of Glass-Steagall by Clinton and the Republicans in the Congress, and restore a Glass-Steagall banking separation, which means there's no longer a bank that's too big to fail. If they're bankrupt, they have to be forced through bankruptcy reorganization. Along with that is the idea of a Hamiltonian credit policy, which is taking credit issuance away from the private banks that run the Federal Reserve and having a national bank which is capable of directing credit into physical economic development. And in particular, those first 2 points, the re-regulation and Hamiltonian credit, are 2 of the 4 laws that LaRouche drafted to revive the economy. The other 2, investment in infrastructure and in scientific research and development, so we have infrastructure at the frontiers of technology. So instead of going to war to defend a bankrupt system, we should accept Putin and Xi's offer of win-win cooperation. And look, what's behind this idea? LaRouche has been right on who are the enemies of the United States and the Western European countries. What are their means of bringing them down? Attacking sovereignty, technocratic regime, a globalist banking system. And what's the solution? Investment in the real physical economy, LaRouche's economic policies. So what we need is a mobilization from our network. Join us, work with us, share this video, and sign up for the December 7th and 8th online conference of the Schiller Institute. There we'll be bringing experts and not technocrats, but actual figures among veterans, Schiller Institute, governments from around the world, to discuss precisely how to implement the LaRouche policy to end the control of the oligarchy over the global financial system and strategic system, and replace it with a new strategic and development architecture. That's what's needed. Many of you know that already. Get out and get your friends active, and sign up as many people as you can for the December 7th and 8th conference. So thanks for joining me. Tomorrow's Friday. If you have questions for me or comments, send them to me at harleysch@gmail.com.